Greetings and welcome to the Connecticut Freedom Trails Conversation at Noon. I'm Andre Kitt, the Greatheart Griot, filling in for Connecticut Freedom Trail Outreach Director Tammy Janice, but just for today, as we discuss finding family. Now, this is a continuation today of our special guest's journey into finding his ancestors and sharing their stories. But first, I'd like to remind everyone that the Connecticut Freedom Trail was established by law in August of 1995 by the Connecticut General Assembly to tell the stories of the African American community and their contributions in the shaping of the state of Connecticut. Just 1 year later, in September of 1996, the trail opened up in 60 towns with 30 sites, with the initial goal to have the sites in all 169 municipalities, all recognizing and elevating the Black narratives along the Freedom Trail here in Connecticut. Now, before we begin, let's take care of a little housekeeping. I want to invite everyone to take the survey and let us know how we're doing. Let us know what kinds of information you'd like to hear. Also, please feel free to ask us any questions from whichever social media platform on which you're watching. We'll do our best to respond to them all. Now, for our special guest today, Jesse M. Harris of Boston. He's a graduate of Northeastern University and worked for a number of years in the newspaper industry, including right here in Connecticut with the Hartford Courant. He's married to a beautiful woman. He has 3 children, 3 grandchildren, and wait, 1 great-grandchild. Jesse, welcome to Conversations at Noon.
Thank you, Brother Andre. It's great to be here.
Well, you got a whole lot to talk about today as a descendant of Ham and Rebecca Primus. How did you get started? What made you decide to do this?
Well, it's been a series of starts and restarts, to be honest with you. But getting started, one of my sisters years ago, probably mid to late 90s, she had given me a book or a pamphlet of the Harris family history that one of my uncles had done way back in 1972. So I guess he was sort of ahead of his time in terms of genealogy. And he had written down, he had some papers from my grandfather, Jesse H. Harris. And he had names and birth dates and of most of my aunts and uncles, from my grandmother and grandfather. And I happen to have it right here. This was done in 1972 by my Uncle Nat in New York City. And so this kind of got me going on everything. And I looked at it with a lot of curiosity, of course, and everything was pretty much new to me. I didn't know too much about my aunts and uncles in terms of their birth, where were they born, their life. Because growing up as a little kid, you don't always think about that kind of thing. You just say, "Oh, we're going to see Aunt Olive or Aunt Ruth, and it's going to be fun." But this sort of gave me a great basis to start this journey, which continues from back then to now, and will be continuing for a while, to sort of put a family history together, to learn about my ancestors, learn some about their lives, what they did, maybe get some information about their likes and their loves, which would be great, and telling their stories, and and knowing, making sure that my family, my kids, my grandkids know their history. Even though they may not show much interest now, hopefully at some point they will. And I say, oh yeah, 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 yeah.
It had to be really emotional on this journey, digging into old photographs and documents about your family, almost like opening up an old photographic book.
Yes, yes. And you'll see this first picture here. This is my aunts and uncles. That's my grandfather right in the back, in the middle, looking off and with the suit on. And that's Rebecca Primus next to him with the hand on his shoulder. And my grandmother and some of my aunts and uncles. I believe this was taken in Cambridge, I believe. I may be wrong about that because they lived in Cambridge and Everett. This was probably about around 1905. This picture was taken. This was in my one of the pictures in my Uncle Nat's book.
Is Rebecca depicted here, or Ham?
Yeah, she's the one to the left of my uncle's. My grandfather, with the hand on his shoulder, sitting in the back. That's Rebecca Primus.
I'm looking at the names underneath. I see Papa, Mama.
Aunt Becky.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they called her. And this is R.P. Thomas was her married name, Rebecca Primus Thomas.
There she is.
Yeah, there she is. Yeah.
Let's look at another one of your photographs and see if we can delve into.
That's one of Rebecca's sisters, who would be my grand aunt, Isabel Primus. She, her story is probably my most emotional connection to. Read her story, and there were several newspaper articles of her. She disappeared one year. I have to look up the year again, but it was in the it was after 1900, I believe, and she had disappeared. And it was like just before Thanksgiving in November. I remember that. And she unfortunately wasn't found until the following May in the Connecticut River in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. So, she had drowned, and nobody really knew what had happened to her. And there was an extensive search for her throughout Hartford. I mean, they involved the Boy Scouts, a lot of people in Hartford had been looking for her, and they just couldn't find her until her body was found in May.
Jesse, let me ask you about that. First, I want to talk to you in a moment about the significance of Ham and Rebecca Primus, but this person's name again is who?
Isabel Primus.
Is she your aunt?
Yes.
A great aunt.
Yep.
And so did she just walk away one day, or what happened? What led to her disappearance?
That's all pretty murky. It was pretty she was just gone. They don't know. Maybe she most likely did walk away. From what I've read, I think there's a possibility she might have had some mental issues. Because there was one article I had read that she was accused of taking things from department stores in downtown Hartford, and she would have these. She had a couple of stories, I guess, that she was doing it for family members, and her niece was going to come take care of her, and this and that. So she might have had some mental issues, but as far as I know, and as far as I've read, she just walked away, disappeared, and nobody really seemed to know why.
Can you tell us what's the significance? What's the story of Rebecca and Ham? What makes it an important story besides they're some of your favorite people from your family?
Sure, sure. Well, in terms of Rebecca, Auntie Becky, she, her work, she was a teacher, first and foremost, and I think it was sort of in her DNA, wherever that came from, that she wanted to do something with her life. She was very, very smart. Some of her writings, I've seen her letters. She wrote really, really, really neat writing. And she seemed pretty meticulous. And when she got the offer to go down to Royal Oak, Maryland, to do the teaching with the Freedmen's Bureau School, just after the Civil War, she jumped on it, and she went down. She opened the school. She immediately got herself involved in the community, and the community loved her. And she loved what she did. She taught adults, former slaves, adults, children, and anybody who walked through that door. She was ready to teach them and help them, move on to a better life and whatever they wanted to do. And she loved it down there.
Is that a picture of her there?
Yes, that is her. This was taken, I believe, somewhere around 1870 in Hartford.
What did Ham do?
Ham, well, he was born in her father, of course. He was, I'm sorry, her grandfather. I got there's so many people that I occasionally get them mixed up myself.
Well, maybe we'll get a chance to get around to all of them today.
For sure, yeah, if we're lucky.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky. This is the Ham Primus house in Guilford, which sort of, when I talked about starting and restarting my ancestry journey, this got me restarted in a big way, just almost 2 years ago, where one of my sisters, Jackie, she forwarded me this article about the Ham Primus house in Guilford, and I said, no, I never even heard of it. And she forwarded me the article, which I read with great interest. And I contacted the reporter, and we chatted for a little while, and she put me in touch with a couple of great people in Guilford, Joel Helander, the town historian, and Tracy Tomaselli, one of the great genealogists of the area. And I talked to them, and they seemed very surprised and happy that they had connected with an ancestor. And they told me about the house and its history, and it was built around 1816, I believe, was the date.
So Jesse, she taught in Hartford, and they had a house in Guilford. How did that?
Well, the Ham Primus house was her grandfather's house.
Okay, all right.
And sorry if I didn't make that clear. Yeah, the Guilford house was Ham Primus's house that he built. And looking at that picture there, the original house was pretty much half that size, and the addition was added throughout the years.
Yeah, I can see that the chimney, the fireplace was added because that's like right in front of a window.
Right. Mostly on the left side of the house was mostly the original part of the house, minus the dormer and minus the chimney, because Joel had mentioned that the house was the original chimney was in the center part of the house, so it definitely wasn't there.
So they started off in Guilford, and then
right. Ham Primus in Guilford, and you have to remember that he was Ham Primus married Temperance Asher, so I sort of have to bring the Asher family into this also. Gad Asher, who was an enslaved man, lived in Guilford, he fought in the Revolutionary War. He actually fought for his owner. He didn't fight for himself. He was sort of, as you know, his owner really gave him didn't do him right for making him fight Revolutionary War, which they could do back then. So Gad Asher fought in the war. And he was there for like at least 6 or 7 years till the end of the war.
Mm-hmm.
And he suffered physically. He lost his eyesight, and he didn't necessarily get his freedom once the war was over. He still had to work for his freedom once he came back.
Now that was contradictory to what the agreement was, because everyone knows that if you were an enslaved person and you fought in the war, you were supposed to be emancipated afterwards. That didn't happen for him.
Yes, most definitely. That's what happened to him. But eventually he was able to buy his freedom and brought some property in Brantford, right next to Guilford. And he was able to, became a farmer, bought some land with one of his sons, and they farmed the land, and the family was able to live there. Yeah.
Now, how was Asher related to Rebecca?
Asher was Rebecca's great-grandfather.
Any more pictures?
Sure. Yeah, we have, if Michael can cue up some more pictures for us, that'll be great. That's my father, Fletcher Harris. Was born in Everett. Was a carpenter. He served in World War II. Just a great man. I wish I had gotten to know him better when he was around. But that's Dad.
What? So, and this is who?
Oh, this is Charles Mitchell. Charles L. Mitchell. He was. Lieutenant Mitchell is another story altogether. He was the brother of one of the. He was the brother of one of the Primus sisters of Henrietta, Henrietta married Theodore Mitchell, and Charles was Theodore's brother. Now, one of the interesting things about the Mitchell brothers is that they both fought in the Mass 55th Voluntary Civil War Regiment. So they both came to Boston, and whatever they did during the war. And Charles Mitchell, after the war, he stayed in Boston. He lived in Boston and in Worcester for a while. And another interesting part about his story is that he was one of the first Massachusetts Black lawmakers elected in, I believe it was 1866 in Massachusetts.
And he was married to who again?
He was married to, she was a singer. I don't have her name on top of me, but
one of the Primus sisters, you said?
He wasn't. Theodore was married to one of the Primus sisters, Henrietta.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Charles was married. His wife was actually a famous New England singer. Her name escapes me right now, but they both lived in Boston.
Let's do the family tree real quick. So
Sure.
Let's start off with Ham and Rebecca.
Okay.
And come down.
Okay. Sure. So you have Ham, who's Rebecca's grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
You have Holdridge, Primus, who's Rebecca's father. There he is, right there.
Mm-hmm.
And Holdridge arrived in Hartford around 1936.
Okay.
From Guilford, and pretty much just to sort of make a life of his own. And I believe he and his wife, Mehetabel Primus, they married, I believe, in the I have to check their date too. I have so many dates. And like I warned you before, Andre, I have so much information.
Let's
But
not worry about the dates. Let's
no,
just
no,
make
no.
sure we got the tree right.
Right, right. And they married, and they had 4 children: Rebecca, Henrietta, Isabel, and Nelson Primus.
And so, what's his name again, right here?
His name is Holdridge.
And Holdridge was married to Mehitabel.
Yes, yes.
Mehitabel was such a popular name. It's the first time I've heard an African American woman by that name, because that
Really?
was a big name for Caucasian people. So he was married to Mehitabel. They had 4 kids. Rebecca was one of them.
Right. Rebecca was one. Rebecca was the oldest, and she had her own thing. Really, we don't hear too much about her until she goes south to do the Freedmen's thing. But she is, of course, the subject of Farrah Jasmine, Professor Dr. Farrah Jasmine Griffin's book of Beloved Sisters and Loving Friends,
Mm-hmm.
with the letters between Rebecca and Addie Brown, and Rebecca and mostly her family,
Mm-hmm.
while she was away in Royal Oak, and provides a lot of insight into her, into Rebecca's daily life, the people she meets, the issues she has to go through, the problems that she has to deal with down there. And you have to remember that was a lot of that was, the beginning of Reconstruction too. So it was pretty rough down there. But she persevered, and she, like I said earlier, she loved it down there. She made many friends. The people respected her, and she respected the people that she taught and got to know down there.
So let me make sure I have this straight. She taught in Hartford and then went to the South, or
Yes.
was it? Okay, got it.
Well, she did teach in Hartford before she went south, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So what do we have another picture?
Oh, this is Leela Primus, who was the daughter of the son Nelson Primus.
Mm-hmm. So this is Rebecca's niece.
Yes, yes. This was taken in Boston, and Leela died at a young age, at 28 years old, in 1893 of tuberculosis.
Mm-hmm.
And she attended schools in Boston. Not too much more about her, but it was one of the lower points on reading about her, because she seemed, she's a beautiful young lady, as you can see.
She is beautiful, and this picture looks like it wasn't taken too much before her death, because she's a young woman in this picture.
Right, right. She died at she was 28 years old when she passed. Yeah. And this is my grandfather Jesse H. Harris's first wife, Elizabeth Dwight Thornton. And she, like I said, she and my grandfather married in 1889 in Hartford, at the Primus family house.
Mm-hmm.
So there were connections back then, which I'm still sort of working on, going through my ancestors, and because there are a lot of family connections here, which I'm sort of not sure about just yet.
That's okay. We're going to back up and try to figure it out. So you said this is your grandfather's sister?
My grandfather's first wife.
Your grandfather's first wife.
So
Now-
she was my step grandmother. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Right, and she was. There is some question of to where she was born. I've seen Hartford. I've seen Virginia, and she was the mother of 4 of my aunts and uncles.
Okay.
Before, like I said, my grandfather's first wife, she passed in 1897, also fairly young. She was, I believe, 29 years old.
I'm trying to. So your grandfather, who was your grandfather's father?
My grandfather's father, I do not know yet. He was born in Virginia. That may be one of the things I'll have to do a trip down there to sort of figure it out.
Your
But
grandmother's father, so your mother's father was who? Do you know who that was?
my mother's father, yes. That's on the Anderson side of the family, which I haven't even really touched on that much yet, because I have a couple of cousins who have family Bibles, which I need to want to sit down and take a look at just to make sure I get things right.
I'm
But
trying
yeah,
to blame the tree. I'm trying to follow the tree.
yeah, the tree kind of goes a little bit like that, but it's a good tree. Yeah,
It
my
is a good tree.
yeah, my mother's father, his name was William Anderson, because my mother was born in North Carolina. Now we're going from Hartford to North Carolina now. And she was born in Pender County, North Carolina.
Oh, I'm familiar with Pender County. I'm
Yeah,
from
yeah,
South Carolina, so I get it.
yeah. So there's a whole different vibe with them growing up. And my mother and her sister and two brothers. And her father was named William Anderson. So that's the Anderson clan
Well,
over there.
just for clarification, I want to go back to your there was Rebecca's family. She had three brothers and sisters, three, so there were four siblings.
Yes.
After them, so what's Rebecca's lineage after that? That brings it to you.
Right. Yeah. After that, Rebecca's lineage. She, after she came back from Royal Oak teaching, she went back to doing some teaching in Hartford. She ran the Talcott Street Congregational Church, their Sunday school.
The one that Pennington started.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And she spent, I think pretty much the rest of her life doing that.
Okay.
And she died in 1932, so she had a long, wonderful life.
And it sounds like an illustrious career in education.
Yes, yes. I think from what I've read and from what I sort of gather, I think a lot of what she wanted to do, maybe in the Hartford schools, the general Hartford school system, was maybe not made available to her. So, but I'm guessing she was able to maybe find some sort of solace in teaching at the church and doing whatever she can.
Well, we know that was the first school for blacks, for
Right.
say colored people at the time. So it was good that she had a job to
Yes.
go to.
Right.
But after that, you're right. She probably would face some challenges after that school. But I believe, and I need to do some more research, more opened up. But
Right.
what happened? What was Rebecca's lineage to you?
Rebecca's lineage to me, my grandmother, in the group picture you saw with the family all sitting in Cambridge.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the top to my grandfather's right. That's my grandmother, Throne Basinia Primus.
Towards the center there?
Yeah, toward the center,
Mm-hmm,
but
I see it.
the back row.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's my grandmother, Throne Basinia.
So how was she related to Rebecca again? That was her grandmother too?
No, she was Rebecca's sister.
Okay.
Right, as far as I know, she was there are still a couple of cloudy areas of her integration into the family. I've seen records where she may have been adopted into the family as an infant, but that nothing has really been confirmed about that as yet. But
So
I know
Rebecca is was it great aunt?
yes,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Okay, there we go. There's that branch.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a branch, all right. And so and grandma was with the family. She was, of course, raised with the family. And my grandfather's second wife. So she is my grandmother, and that's the lineage. It doesn't come from Rebecca directly. That's my mother, Annabelle Anderson Harris, who was born in Pender County,
Mm-hmm.
Carolina. That's her.
Mm-hmm. And she would be Rebecca's niece?
Well, no, because she was on the Anderson side of the family.
Okay, all right.
On the other side, right?
So your father is the one who was related to that.
Yes, Yes, exactly. My mom is on the Primus side.
And that would be Rebecca's nephew.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
And
Who do we have here?
this is a picture of my mother, second one in from the left, from the right. I'm sorry,
Hmm.
in the orange, and next to her on the outside is my Uncle Lawrence, and in the middle there is Uncle Pete, and on the end there is my Aunt Mary C. This was taken. I'm not sure what even. I know I was a young boy when we used to go down to visit them in Carolina, and one of the great memories I have is my Uncle Lawrence. He had this huge cast iron pan, and he just be throwing fish in there all day for us to eat and to enjoy. And that was pretty much our family reunion in Carolina, in Burgaw, and those are some really good times.
Jesse, what about your family history made you something hit you? Because I know when I'm doing my writing of my stories, something hits me that makes me say, this is a good story to tell. I should tell these stories. What was that for you?
Uh, probably. I mean, I think there was several things, but I think the main thing is my grandfather. This is a one of Nelson Primus's portraits, by the way, original oil painting he did in San Francisco. It's called the Fortune Teller.
Wow.
Right, and this is currently. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's on display, but it's at the Savannah Art and Design School in Georgia right now.
I would love to see that close up.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's a really great painting, and Nelson had no formal training. This
Whoa,
guy
he taught himself to do that?
taught himself, yes, and many of his earlier works he did from photographs. But this was an original, as far as I know, done around 1900.
So we have educators, we have very talented
Yes,
artists.
yes. Hmm. So you see what I mean about stuff.
Yeah, but now you're putting the leaves on the branches now. So
Oh yeah. Yeah,
wow.
so and getting back to your question, I think the story of my grandfather, Jesse H. Harris, the more I've been able to find out about him, he was born in Virginia. Like I said, I don't know yet his parents or anything really official, but it's close enough. It was 1864 that he was born in Virginia, maybe Stevensville, Virginia. Uh, he seems, in many ways, to be self-taught in terms of his growing up. I've found a couple little bits and pieces that he pretty much raised himself. I don't have no really confirmation of that, but things I've seen suggest that. And 1886, he went to Hampton when it was the Hampton Normal School still. And he did his 4 years at Hampton and he graduated. And he went on from there. I don't know how he ended up in Harvard with my grandmother. That's part of a mystery, making that connection. But he was very involved after he left Hampton with the Alumni Association. He was even president for a while of the Alumni Association. And even when he was living in Boston, I believe he often took trips and kept in contact with a lot of his classmates from Hampton. He did a lot of writing. He was into poetry, it seems like. He wrote lots of letters to newspapers. I have a couple that are very talking about the plight of the colored person and the colored race, which I thought were very, very interesting, very long, very interesting.
Almost narratives, almost.
Yeah, and quite intense. So and so it was. He's, I think, by far to me the most interesting person I like to know about. I mean, if there was one person in the family that I could sit down and have a nice long conversation with. I think it would be him. Of course, be a lot of folks not too far behind, but I think I'd like to start with him if that were possible.
Were there any family stories, tradition, or values passed down that helped shape your understanding of their lives and their contributions, other than some of what you've already said?
Right. Not much that I can recall. I mean, I've chatted with my sisters about this, and there isn't really that much that I recall personally myself. Um, like I said, a lot of this I really got interested in as I got older. When I was younger, I did it when I could, but in some ways I sort of regret not maybe paying more attention when my folks were around or my aunts and uncles were around to ask them these kind of questions.
Jesse, I think and we can point to a lot of people who just, when they were younger, didn't feel like that. I
Right,
often used to
right,
tell my family, write
right.
down these stories, right? It turned out that I was going to be the one to do them, just like
Yeah.
you
Yes,
are.
I am.
You're the
And
one.
right, and I'm not complaining. I'm enjoying doing it. Actually, I when I can find a little tidbit or something new that I haven't seen or heard of before, I like to. I'll grab onto it and I'll sort of run with it, and I will go down that rabbit hole. I used to complain about it, but I don't complain anymore because I don't mind going down rabbit holes. I don't. Eventually, I come out, but if I come out with some decent information. But it's been a great journey, and I can't complain about it. I really loved it. I know we had talked about the connections. There's grandma again, Theroni Bassinia. And another thing with my grandfather is that the there were a lot of kids in the family. Between his first wife Elizabeth and through grandma, probably about 16 children overall. And I think that says something about the resilience of the family, and because everybody has their own story. Everybody has done um, not necessarily extraordinary things, but for the extraordinary times that they were in, and that they did what they had to do. And from all my aunts and uncles that I can remember in my memory, I love them all, and I felt connections with them all. Maybe not at the time, but when I think back and I think about what I knew about them and what I remember about them, it's those connections that I'm really um, thankful that I have.
Do you get a sense of what the family dynamics were like, especially with half sisters and half brothers? And do you get a sense of how that was?
Uh,
Family dynamics.
Not really, but I get the feeling that my grandfather was the boss. Just from looking at some of his pictures and his face, and it is, I don't know if how often he might have smiled, but I get the feeling, well, maybe not that much, but uh, but I think from what I remember, my aunts and uncles, they all got along just fine. I mean, I know they had gatherings. They had a few gatherings in Boston. I think they had a few gatherings in New York City, where my uncle Nat lived, and I had an aunt who lived there also on Elaine. So as far as I know, they all got along great. We visited them when we were younger. Visited an aunt in Cambridge, and um, she had a house up in Maine that we used to go visit. Spend some nice summer days with. So I don't know. I don't know if there was any particular dynamic, but I know they all got along fine.
Do you think that your family story does anything to exemplify the lifestyle, the challenges, the triumphs of quote unquote typical African American?
Yeah, yeah. I think they were sort of.
How so?
I think they were sort of right in the middle of it. My grandfather made sure that they had their education. A lot of the younger kids, they all worked hard, as far as I know. I'm sure they all worked hard, and they were typical of the time that Black folks had to deal with things back then, and even as things as things supposedly got better, but you never know. They never really got that much better. But I think that they did exemplify a lot of that. Um, to they were able to go on, and that's I'm here today. My sisters are here today. My kids are here today. My grandkids are here today. My grandchild is here today. So I think we've been pretty successful in navigating, a lot of the challenges that have been sort of thrown up um, over the years, and I think it's been great.
Do you think that? Oh, here's another picture here.
Oh, this is the Primus family plot in Zion Hill Cemetery in Hartford, of which most of the Primus family is buried there now, and there are a couple of unmarked graves that we are in the process of hopefully getting taken care of. We're going to have a marker added for Rebecca Primus. So she's currently buried with her mother. So if you went to Zion looking for Rebecca Primus, you're not going to find her right now, which is one of the issues I faced on one of my early trips in Hartford. So hopefully in September we're going to have a marker placed there for her. And
was that customary for Black people to be buried together like that, and or have no records or markers?
That is a good question. I really do not know. That's something I'm going to have to find out. But the Primus plot is quite large, and there may be a couple more family members buried there. I'm not sure yet. Over on the left side, you have 3 in front, you have the ones in back. Those are all part of the same plot. But in answer to your question, Andre, I really don't know.
Do you think they were considered prominent citizens? Because most of the time, people of color were put in a mass grave. They have a special area.
Yeah, back then, Primus family was considered middle class. When they moved into their home on Wadsworth Street in Hartford, it was mostly a white neighborhood, and so they kept their ties to the Black community in terms of going to the church and helping out other families in the area, Black families in the area, helping to, when we talked about Mahedable earlier, her work in welcoming Black women from the South with or without kids and families, and helping the Black women learn how to develop skills, like whether it was just sewing or domestic work or that kind of thing. The Primuses would take them in to their homes, help them out, help them develop a skill. And so it was the Primus house on Wadsworth. It's kind of like a little bit like a clearinghouse. So they knew the value of the work, and they knew what Black people were going through then, and they were willing to help out, and they helped out in a big way.
Well, when you said they knew what Black people were going through then, they went through the same thing, right?
Yes, they certainly did. They went, right? Yep. Yep.
When did you start doing this research?
Oh, back in late 1900s.
No, when did you start doing it? You weren't around. Were you here?
Yes, I was.
You were here.
Yeah. When I started doing,
when you say it like that, we sound so old when you say it like that.
I know. I started doing the research probably actually, it was probably around 2000 when I started, because from my Uncle Nat's book, I did make a couple of trips to Hartford at the State Library, and went through the archives. And of course, at the time, I didn't realize it was it's daunting work, especially back then, before the internet made it so much easier. And one of my trips, so there were a couple of trips to the library, and there was another trip I had made to the Connecticut Cultural and Historical Museum, and that sort of changed everything for me, because that's where I met Barbara Beeching.
Okay.
It was just a chance meeting.
And who is that again?
Barbara Beeching wrote this book. It's called Hopes and Expectations.
Mm-hmm.
The Origins of the Black Middle Class in Hartford.
Got it.
It originally was part of her dissertation for a PhD at Trinity, and it's really a great book. And she was working on the book at the time that we met, and we had a nice long conversation, and she asked me if I had any pictures or anything I could show her, and I sent her a couple that she actually used in the book. And Barbara is kind of like my genealogy go-to in terms of what got me started. And she just it's so much work, and I give her all the credit in the world of helping me along with this, because it's important. It's very, very important. And I was very sad. Barbara passed in 2023, in July 2023, and I was very, very, very sad, because we had become good friends also, and she had become also good friends also with my wife. We had lunch a couple of times, and it was a nice relationship. And she'd still ask me questions, and I give her answers as best I could. So it was sad when she left us.
Needless to say, she obviously has done a good job in the treatment of your family and her book.
Oh, she did a wonderful job. I couldn't.
What is this a picture of here, Jesse?
This is a picture of what may be Rebecca Primus's wedding dress, which was donated to the Wadsworth Athenaeum back in 1932, the year Rebecca died. Now, this dress was probably made around 1870 or so. So it's over 150 years old, and obviously it was worn well. It was on display.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's pretty much, if you see it in person, the model is quite small, and you say, well, nobody really has a waist that tiny, but Auntie Becky did. You see some of her pictures. So that was, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was likely her wedding dress when she married Charles Thomas in 1876, I believe. Yeah.
Do we have any other pictures to show? Let's see what else we got. That's the inside of the house.
Right.
In Guilford, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we might have seen him already.
You might have seen that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How important do you think it is, Jesse? I'm asking the question I probably know the answer to, but it bears witness in saying again for descendants of our ancestors to be the ones to help tell the story.
Yes, it does. Yeah, and I'm a great believer in that, and I'm I will push these stories because they're important for not only for us to know and understand, but for others to know and understand also. But the importance that these stories are. I mean, and probably more so today in this, environment that we're going through. And this is important. It's history. It's things that they did that we have to getting these stories out here and sharing is very important.
Do you ever feel pressure or what you feel like a responsibility in telling these stories?
I do now. I do now, knowing that it's important to share and for people to know. I feel it's my responsibility. I mean, I can sit here and I can talk for the next couple of hours about the importance of these stories. I can go through each person on my tree. Of course, I have to get out some notes again because there's so many of them.
Notes are good. Notes are good.
But and go through the Primus side, the Anderson side, and I can tell the stories of my family.
How important do you think it is to come from Black voices, from the Black perspective?
It,
Make sure-
yeah, it's key. I think it's key. I mean, anybody can tell anybody's story, but if you're part of the story, if your lineage is part of the story, and you have more a certain insight into what the story is all about, what the family is all about, and it's critical. I think it's critical, and it it gives the story more importance and more heft, for lack of a better word.
I think I'll just say I believe it gives it more seasoning. How about that?
That too, yeah.
What do you think about, and I don't know if this is something that's happened, and if so, I'd love to hear about it, about people who are not brown or Black telling the story from their perspective and not really fully getting it the way it was meant to be. Have you had any instances or occurrences of not being consulted or hearing or reading your family's stories, history, and it not being like hitting the mark?
No, actually, you know what? I haven't really run into that just yet. The people I've worked with, like I mentioned, Joel Elander and Tracy Tomaselli down in Guilford, they've been very honest, very professional about what they've been finding. We've sat down and talked about lots of stuff, and it's been nice, open conversations. And also, the only other person I've really worked with is Scott Geck at Trinity College. And he and I are sort of collaborating on a couple of projects right now. And Scott's been really, really great about what he knows, what I know. We've met in his office several times, and we've just kind of gone back and forth with the family history and what he knows, what I know. And he's a great listener to what I have to say.
It's a perfect segue to the next question. What role do institutions like museums, schools, or historic sites play in either preserving or overlooking these kinds of family legacies?
Yeah, they play a great role. I mean, the Connecticut Historical Museum I mentioned, they have the Primus papers, the Primus letters on file, and I've been down there a few times looking at them, and they've really taken very, very good care of them, and they treat me very, very nicely when I'm there, and I appreciate that. I appreciate their professionalism, what they've done in preserving the letters and taking care of them. Getting back to Scott a minute, I'm working on his Primus project at Trinity, staying true to what the project is all about, in encompassing the history of Black families in Hartford and Trinity's role. And I don't know all of the nuances of Trinity's role in terms of its relation to enslavement and this and that going back. But I know from what I know in working with Scott that they seem to be working toward making things better, and at least getting the history out there and not being afraid to talk about it and to move forward.
it's serendipitous because each one of your answers is a segue to the next question, and so
Uh,
therefore you answer some of it already. But when you talk about institutions um, and their roles, are there specific ways other than what you've mentioned that communities
mm,
better support Black descendants in preserving and sharing these stories?
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I'm hoping the stories, not necessarily mine, but hoping other stories will be able to get out there. And I mean, it's, you have to do some outreach in order to get the stories out there. Try to get people to listen, and I think it comes through conversations like you and I are having to make people aware of what's going on and to detail the importance of all of it, because it is important. It is important, and it's something that's going to be with us for a long, long time. It's my continuation. This journey, it's a continuing journey, and just getting the stories out there is something we really have to do and work at.
So, Jesse, what advice would you give other Black families or individuals who are looking to uncover and share their ancestral stories? What would you tell them?
Um, find a place to start. I know sometimes finding a place to start is the hard.
Okay.
I talk to you. You know what? The first thing I'd say is talk to your family, especially any senior folks who are around that you can talk to. Sit down, chat with them. Just ask them. What was this person like? What did you do? This and that. Oh, can you give me some other names and things to look at? What's our family all about? Do you have any pictures? Do you have any documents? Where are they from? What did they do? You'd probably be surprised on how much you'd be able to get, and that's your starting point right there. And don't be discouraged if it gets a little hard or frustrating, because it's going to happen, and things will happen that you won't expect. Like I mentioned with the emotional connection to my grandaunt Isabel. I read the stories that she was missing, but when I found out that she was found in the river drowned, that was tough, and it took me a couple of weeks before I told my sisters about it, because I sort of had to. Every time I thought about it, I said, "Oh man,
I can see it and hear it in your voice right
Yeah.
now too. I see it and hear it in your voice. It's emotional each and every time, and
right."
it sounds like you mourn or grieve it each time. Let me ask you one final question, because we only got a few more minutes to go. We got kind of hot towards the end here. It always gets that way. We warm up and it gets really interesting towards the end. But if Ham and Rebecca could speak to us today, what do you think they would want us to know, or what would you want to say to them?
Hmm. Uh, that's what I would want to say to them. Uh, to him, I'd say thank you for leaving the legacy that you did. I know you had a rough life, but thank you for what you did, because I'm here because of what you did. Um, and we're trying to make still trying to make things better. It's been a long road, but we're trying to make things better. And I'd probably say the same thing to Rebecca too. That thank you for your work. Uh, uh, Thank you for being a part of this family. And I do appreciate you. I appreciate them both.
Well, we look forward to hearing even more of your family story and you telling it.
Yeah.
And I want to hear what they have to say to you.
Okay. Can we? I'm sorry. Can we throw out one more picture? I just noticed.
Sure. Go
I
ahead.
haven't seen a picture of my grandpa Jesse. Michael, please. I think that's the only picture we didn't see. my grandfather as a young man.
Okay.
I think this one was taken shortly, not too far after his Hampton days. My, Grandpa Jesse, Mike, if you can get that one.
Sorry, I don't think
Oh,
we have the picture. My
oh,
apologies.
oh, okay. All right. Sorry. No big deal.
That's okay. All
Okay.
right. Hey, you got that. You know what that means? That just means you got to come back.
Sure.
That's all that means. But thank you so much for the richness, the fertile field that you have planted for this story of depicting a typical uh, African American middle class family and their triumphs, their sorrows. That legacy is still. We did not inherit a lot of times generational wealth, but we did inherit generational trauma. And I felt it just now, Jesse, when you talked about what you would say to them and what they would say to you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for joining us today on our topic, finding our families, and conversations at noon won't be the same without you. Thank you.
I'd be happy to come back, Andrew. Thank you.
Right. Love
Thank you
to.
for having me. It was a pleasure. I
Take
got
care.
more stories too.
Okay. Gotta come back. That's the date. Might not be me. It might be Tammy, though.
That's fine.
Okay. Take care, man. Thanks for joining us on Conversations at Noon. We look forward to seeing you in the coming months. And I'm sure you'll be able to see a whole lineup of what we have in store for you. The upcoming programs for the Freedom Trail would be on July 22nd at 12 o'clock noon, From These Roots, My Fight with Harvard to Reclaim My Legacy. And on Wednesday, July 30th, a celebration of the preservation of Black sites. And finally, Tuesday, August 26th, To Be Determined. That you got to stay tuned and check out what we're into here at Conversations at Noon. Until the next time, take care, everybody, and peace.